anyone who talks to Sean for 5 minutes can't but help know his infectious smile and his enthusiasm for a topic that, while serious, when he speaks from the heart, he touches hearts. And I had the privilege to look through his book and read some of his selections, and they will really touch your heart. And so he's here with us tonight just to share. After it's over, he has some books available. I understand he's even signing them as the author, if you so wish. And we have delicious cookies in the front. I highly recommend the homemade ones.
Yeah, we did it.
All right, so please grab some of them, and there's some water if anyone needs something to drink. Okay, Sean, thank you.
All right. Thank you, first of all, for coming out on not such great weather evening where it's a lot easier to stay in a couch or what have you. This is the book. It's called Full of Life, and I'd like to mention how it kind of came about. I got involved with 40 Days for Life almost kind of by mistake, which of course is no mistakes, right? And I met Liz O'Brien over there, and what wound up happening was we were just talking casually, and Liz said, oh, if you know anybody who likes to write at all, just let them know that they can write to Rock and Write to Life and send in some writings, and I can maybe post them. So I wrote a piece or whatever, and Liz was very gracious about it. And she said, "Oh, if you want to, do that, I'll, put them up." So I said, "Okay." So over a period of about 1.5 years to 2 years or so, I would send her a writing like every month or so. And after that was done, I wasn't really thinking about a book until maybe later on. And Liz and I were talking about it. She said, "You did the hard work. Why not just put it together and make it a book?" So that's how this came about. And there's a whole bunch of them here. And feel free to take as many as you want, because I don't want to take these back to the car. They're here for you. So give them to everyone. It's really about the message, and really it's, hopefully, I hope you feel that it's written in a very positive way. Even though, like Sister was saying, it's a heavy topic, but it's actually more about the celebration of life than anything else, okay? That being said, that leads perfectly into me thanking, without embarrassing her too much, Liz O'Brien, because Liz helped me so much with this book. I can't even tell you. If it wasn't for Liz, this book would not have come to fruition whatsoever. All right? So thank you, Liz. Let's hear it for Liz. I really appreciate it. And, Liz did all the proofreading, editing, and she cleaned up my mess. And there's a lot of mess. So, anyway, I was thinking about what to say tonight. I had some ideas, and I kind of thinking of the theme of one, meaning one person. And a lot of times, sometimes with something as big as abortion, we feel like, well, I'm only one person. What am I going to do, right? I think sometimes that can be a mistake, that people feel that it's overwhelming, it's too much. But in reality, one person can do a lot. I like to share a few stories with that. One actually is directly related to the 40 Days for Life. Over in Route 59, and I didn't witness this, somebody else told me about it. I think it was Eileen Peterson. She was saying this story about this girl who, was pregnant. She was very overcome with a lot of fear and anxiety, didn't know what to do. She was kind of praying about it. And as she was driving down Route 59, Spring Valley, and all the chaos and craziness over there, she's praying for a sign. Let me just ask you too, I'm just curious, have you guys ever, because I know for me personally, I do this quite a bit, in your own life, do you pray for signs when you have a difficult situation or anything like that? Show of hands?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah. So almost all of you, right?
Yeah.
So this girl did that exact thing. She prayed for a sign. What can I do? What should I do? I think inside her heart she knew what was the right thing to do, but it's always a struggle, right? We know what the right thing to do is, but sometimes it's hard to make that choice. So what she did is ask for a sign. Well, she made a wrong turn, which actually turned to be a right turn. And what wound up happening is she passed the people the 40 Days for Life. And there was a girl, or a man, I don't know, somebody holding a sign like this. Right? And this is a sign she saw, I'm not saying this particular one, but a sign like it. So God gave her answer. And she knew what she was going to do after that. Which I love that story, because sometimes people that are holding the signs, they might even feel, oh, what good is this? Just holding a sign, I'm not even talking to somebody. But in reality, when you're holding a sign, something like this, especially a face like this, right?
you don't know what you're doing to other, people as far as moving their hearts, So that's one story in relationship to how powerful one person can be. Another story I'd like to share is actually in chapter 3 in this book, and actually has to do with a young girl, 15, 16-year-old girl. She was in a class, and one of the questions that the teacher asked had to do with pro-life. And she said, who here is, for pro-choice or abortion? And so all of the students in the classroom, all of them, raised their hand, except for this one student. And the girl, when they asked, who's pro-life, she raised her hand. Now, it would have been a lot easier for her to say, I'm just going to keep my hand down, right? Because, it takes a lot of guts to do that. But she raised her hand, and she said she's pro-life. She gave her reasons, logically gave her reasons. They didn't get into a strong emotional debate and stuff like that. But that was just the beginning of it. What wound up happening later on is as time went on, her classmates probably on the side asked her, tell me more about what you think and that type of thing. And so what wound up happening was little by little, most of the kids actually became pro-life or believed, had the same opinion she did after that. I believe there was 19 kids, I'm a little sketchy on the numbers, I believe there was 19 kids in the class and 14 of them became pro-life because of her. Because of her giving her voice and going ahead and saying what she thought. And I think especially, I love that story because it's the teenagers, and it's a lot easier as a teenager to kind of just say, I'm going to skirt that, I'm not going to get involved with that, right? But to have the guts to get up and say, no, I'm pro-life, even though all of you aren't, right? And to stand for what you believe. And so that, again, is the power of one person making a big difference. And of course, how that ripple effect occurs after that. The next person I'd like to talk about is a good friend of mine. He's a mailman. His name is Ed. He's a wonderful man. And one morning, he was sharing with me, Saturday morning, he would sometimes go down to where the abortion clinic is. And he would pray or counsel and so on. So on a Friday night, he was like, oh, you know what, I think I'm going to go do that. But the next morning came and, sometimes it's tough to get up in the morning, right? Especially on the weekend where you can sleep in, right? So what he wound up doing was he struggled getting up. So he was struggling and he's saying, my bed's kind of warm and cozy, maybe I'll just stay here. And he was struggling with that, but then he did get up and he says, you know what, I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna go and pray. So he went down to the abortion facility, and it turns out nobody was there. I mean, nobody at all. Nobody praying. No other people are actually going in the abortion facility yet. But what he did was he just knelt down and he prayed his rosary. All of a sudden he noticed a young couple, was across the street, and they were considering going into the abortion facility. Well, he just prayed his rosary. He didn't say anything to them. He was very quiet. And he noticed them and they noticed him. But then after some time went by, they came over to him and they said, we want to let you know, we are keeping our baby because you were here. I just love that story because I know this guy personally, and this is a guy who is a very quiet guy, almost shy. And how powerful is that? I mean, here he was just a witness praying, being a sign of hope. And this couple decided to keep their baby. So that's another example of the power of one person. Another one I like to give is a little different. It's something I ran into recently that I was aware of, but I actually kind of got more involved or found out more about him. It's actually over on West Coast by the Golden Gate Bridge. Sergeant Briggs, I don't know if any of you have heard of him, but he patrols the Golden Gate Bridge. And what happens is, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that choose to take their own lives by jumping off the bridge. Well, this man is amazing because the little that I know is just unbelievable. He saved 200 people's lives that were going to jump off the bridge. Only 2 people, which is a shame, of course, but 2 people did, lose their lives. But he saved over 200 lives. People that decided he helped them, choose life. But a lot of people ask him and say, well, what do you say? What are the words? Tell me your words. What do you do? And I love this because I think it says a lot. He says, I don't say a lot. He says, I listen. I listen to them. And I think that there's a lot of overlap with the whole pro-life, and we're talking about abortion. It's about listening. These people are in a lot of pain. They're going through a lot of struggle, anger, difficulty, and they just want to be heard. And so I think a lot of it is listening and letting them know, because they might not have any support by anybody in their family or outside their family, and a lot of times they feel very alone and isolated. So this sergeant, I think, is an awesome example of that. And I think it overflows very much so with the pro-life as far as when we're talking about abortion as well. So that's another person. Another thing I'd like to share with you guys, which I know almost all you guys probably are familiar with this. Have you guys seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life? Show of hands? Okay. Great movie. Every time before Christmas, I force my sister to watch it with me. And she winds up loving it too. And I love that movie because, just to give a brief time capsule of it, George Bailey, who's played by Jimmy Stewart, does such a great job. He's down on his luck. And as time goes on, things get worse. And he's in tremendous amount of debt. He's getting stressed out. He's realizing his job in the town that he lives in is a dead end. Not only is it a dead end, it's really, really a sad situation. So what winds up happening is he gets more and more stressed out about the whole thing. He starts taking it out on his own family, his wife, his kids. And it's really, really unraveling. His whole world's unraveling. So he gets to a point where he's going to the bar and he's getting half in the bag and he's drinking and everything. But he says a beautiful prayer, and to be honest, this is like my favorite prayer. It's a great daily prayer, and it's just like 3 words, 2 or 3 words. Show me the way. And he says, you know, God, I'm not a praying man, you know, I don't even know if you exist, but if you are there, show me the way. So it's like his last string of hope, you know, help me out. So I think it's beautiful because what winds up happening is he does attempt to go over to the bridge to maybe jump, and Clarence, his angel, saves him, right? And they have an interesting comical conversation even, right? But what winds up happening regarding that is that Jimmy Stewart realizes once Clarence shows him that if you didn't live, a lot of lives would not have been touched in a very positive, beautiful way. Because that was his wish. He says, I wish I was never born. And he says, okay, I will grant you that wish. And so he saw his life as if he wasn't born. And so Mary, who was his wife, never married, right? And all these other people where he had a tremendous positive impact. And sometimes I think it's very easy for myself, I think for just about everybody, sometimes you forget of the impact that you have on other people's lives. Because it's a lot easier for people to complain about things than necessarily say, hey, thanks a lot for doing that, right? So we don't always feel that, right? I think George was in that situation. He just felt like, ugh, and he was at the bottom of the barrel. Well, the beautiful thing about the movie is that at the end of the movie, he realizes that his life was tremendously important, and also the people that he impacted. Not only that, when he came back home, what I love about it is that he doesn't care about the debt. He doesn't care if he has to go to jail. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. He's just saying, I'm glad I'm back. I'm glad I have my life, right? So that's what's beautiful about that. And what's beautiful about it, too, as far as the theme, is that his life impacted so many people. And he's, you know, it's showing how really all of our lives, we impact so many people that we don't realize. Okay, so how important that is. So that's one life, again. One life, one person making a big difference. What does all this mean really to us in a practical way? I always like, you know, when you hear some kind of talks, I remember listening to Fulton Sheen, an old talk a long time ago. He was talking to, I think, priests and so forth. And he was saying, it's nice when you hear a talk and stuff, but if there's nothing tangible, something to do with it later, then sometimes it's like, okay, then it just goes, right? Well, I like to mention 3 things. One is the rosary, which the rosary is so powerful. Our Lady is so unbelievable. She's our mother. She's the mother of all these people that are in trouble, that are stressed out, that have a lot of anxiety. So the rosary is so powerful. Any type of prayer, of course, but especially the rosary. And just being a sign of life. Sometimes people, if they're in a situation where they're in trouble and stuff like that, they might be able to feel like, hey, you know what, I know how that person kind of thinks and stuff, and they might feel comfortable talking to them, you know. And then the other thing too, which I know is maybe kind of an obvious thing, is the 40 Days for Life. the 40 Days of Life and a lot of other great pro-life projects are